Welcome everyone. Hail to my fellow Selvan citizens. I am I.D.G. Curry, and I would like to present to you the official Shogun of the Heavens YouTube channel, where we will be walking the path in each chapter of Book 1, Fall of Immortals. Narrating this thrilling, action-packed, and dramatic fantasy will be yours truly, I.D.G. Curry, aka, for these sample readings, the Prophet of Pagulane. Now, without further ado, enter with me as we plummet to Gaia and into Book 1, Fall of Immortals. Prophet, proceed. Chapter 9, Tamer of Forces. The moon lit the clear sky over Bastion, and the streets of the ever-lively market city were filled with merchants and patrons going about their business. In the interior, no expense was spared procuring accommodations for the League of Pagulane. You're lucky we can afford the extra cost of your ritual. The servants are going to flog themselves when they see how you've desecrated our room, said Zara while she wondered what was used to create the diagram Xanatos was sitting in. She assumed it was blood. From what was another question. The smell was bewildering and disturbing. The herbs and ingredients Zara was sent to fetch were brewed into 6 bowls, evenly positioned around Xanatos. The servants will be spared, sister. After all, they cannot be blamed for what we do. However, they may experience difficulty cleaning it up once we leave. Xanatos replied humorously. He had now become adept at all manner of elemental spells, alchemy, and arcane magic absorbed from the Grand Magus grimoire, including, in particular, necromancy. Woven together with the primordial energy of his creation, the Religare's sorcery was potentially limitless. We must move cautiously during this time. We will be vulnerable while so vastly spread apart. I have ensured us a head start on the acolytes. They would have been a potential problem during this delicate phase. Zara and Xanatos heard Zaldan's voice proliferate through their minds. Among us, I am the presence that will be most strongly felt, as the heart I carry feels strongly about the priestess. The bond she and I share from this past life spells failure. As long as it remains, her arrow can slay us by piercing my heart. I may never break it completely, though I can overcome it. The bond gets its power from strong emotion. The void of dark nature must swallow the light of love within me as I grow in power. I will defeat the acolytes by breaking their will, and as it breaks, so will Amina's hope of love's return fade. He continued. Once her heart's warmth has faded, the bond will weaken, and she will no longer be a threat. Until then, she must always be accounted for in the battlefield, and her arrow must never reach me. His words were marked in their minds as Xanatos began the ceremony, and Zara sat on the bed to take watch. The moon has reached its apex, and mana is rich in the night air. The energy around us is filled with resentment, hatred, and contempt, which is exactly what I have been sent in search for. I will not be able to respond until I return. Guard me well, sister, instructed Xanatos, weaving hand signs while chanting an indistinguishable language. His eyes became blank, and the ingredients spread around him ignited, lighting the room with a dreary green light. Mind and spirit divided from his body as Xanatos' consciousness entered the realm between life and death. His astral form allowed him great mobility and discretion, perfectly suited for his particular task. Floating above his body, Xanatos could only watch as Zara sat on the bed, completely oblivious to his phantom presence. Xanatos passed through the ceiling without disturbing a single splinter, launching himself through the sky, eager to please his sire. He first arrived at the ruins of Troy, where an angry, unsettled soul knelt beside a blue cloak, mourning what used to be the walls of the once great city. Xanatos appears behind the weeping soul. They burnt it. They burned it all. They raped my home and my wife. They murdered my son. Even with all my strength, I could not stop this calamity, the soul muttered in its catharsis. Why have you lingered here, soul? What is the purpose of bearing this torment? Asked Xanatos. After death, my body was mistreated and desecrated. My parents managed to recover my body, though I could not rest. Before they could burn my body, I had to watch from behind the veil as my home, for which I had lain down my life, was being violated and razed, the soul said in sorrow. War tells the tale of tragedy. Men are told lies to justify within themselves that the savagery they commit is for the greater good. Though no amount of lies can wash away the blood spilled, the religare replied empathetically. He then asked, what were you called, soul? The soul's form defined the silhouette of a man. He had curly brown hair and pale eyes of the dead, and wore the silver and blue armor of Troy, with a crown on his chest plate. My name is Hector, Prince of Troy, the figure replied and stood up. What would you give to be relieved of this existence? Asked Xanatos as he floated towards Hector's spirit. The only possessions I have to barter with are my coins for the ferryman, Hector answered, holding the gold coins his father placed on his eyes. I am not the ferryman, Prince Hector, and those coins are not currency here. Xanatos knocked his staff against the ground, clearing the eerie mist suffocating the air, continuing. Would you commit your soul to greatness? Suffer no longer, son of Troy, for I am here to offer you a choice. Pledge and bind your soul to my master. Do so, and you will conquer by his side. No longer will you bear a dreary, woeful existence. You will be given life anew, new purpose, and limits beyond the mortal barriers. Your patron gods abandoned you in Troy's most dire hour. Poseidon set no waves for your sake, and Apollo spun in the sun, indifferent to the sacking of Troy. My master rewards those who serve him well, equivalent to their accomplishments. What say you, son of Troy? Serve my war marshal and become the tamer of forces once again. Hector adorned his blue cloak, fastening it to his armor, and bends his knee before Xanatos. I will serve. Xanatos placed his staff on Hector's right shoulder as the prince knelt. Excellent. Now you will slumber until I awaken you. It will be a long-awaited respite for your weary soul. The orb on Xanatos' staff glowed, and its rings chimed in rotation. Hector's soul turned into a silver ball of light, orbiting around Xanatos as he floated off towards his next appointment. Rough seas crashed against the shores of Thermopylae. The rain fell around Xanatos, and thunder erupted in the sky. Out of all places we could have searched, it just had to be Greece. If my fortune has not faded, Jupiter's attention is occupied elsewhere, and his gaze does not turn in my direction, said Xanatos. The fear of failure rallied his scattered focus back to his task. Xanatos glided along the path through the hot gates, the very pass where 300 Spartans stood shield to shield between Xerxes and free Greece. He reaches the cliff, gazing into the horizon of the storm. Dark clouds could be seen for miles, and thunder exploded from within, so loud it could wake the dead. The sounds of shields stacking echoed around him. Xanatos found the fog thickening, and then the sounds of soldiers roaring in unison shook the air around him. Ahoo! 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 Xanatos looked left to right, but could not see the oncoming armada. Then again, ahoo! 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 A wraith appeared out of the fog, wearing Spartan red and carrying a spear in his hand and a shield on his back. What business do you have among the dead here, Phantom? Inquired the Spartan. I am in search of courage, valor, and sacrifice, Xanatos answered. The only thing you will find here, Phantom, is damnation. Times 300! The ghostly warrior shouted as the spirits of 300 Spartan warriors appeared and surrounded the conversation. Impressed but not frightened, Xanatos surveyed around him as the former elite fighting force erupted together. Awoo! 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 Xanatos faced the Spartan. Who are you, spirit? He asked. We are those that were abandoned by our countrymen, our government, and our gods. I bear this sin most of all, and have damned these men who have followed me here against the voice of the oracle. These men died fighting bravely beside me, and should be resting in Elysium, yet we are trapped in this plane. Time decayed our bodies beyond the ability to perform funeral rites, leaving us trapped here. I am King Leonidas. This is my torment. Xanatos tapped his staff with force, dispersing the 300 spirits into a blue smoke. Rejoice, King Leonidas, for I have come to offer you salvation, declared the Religare. I ask, what would you sacrifice now in the face of dreadful eons? What would you give for another chance to earn glory on the battlefield again? To feel the earth beneath your feet or the wind on your face? Do you miss the warmth of the sun, the touch of a woman, and the hot blood of dead enemies? He asked. I serve one who has given me the power to restore your life and grant you immortality. Will you pledge and bind your soul to my master in his service? What say you, Leonidas, King of Sparta? Leonidas paused, looking back at the 300 forming behind him. I cannot abandon my men. I would never leave them here to suffer this fate alone, said Leonidas, as his soldiers began banging their shields with their swords, reciprocating their king's devotion and respect. Xanatos takes notice of Leonidas' loyalty to his men and the amount of faith that they have all placed in him. They were willing to follow him beyond death, through the gates of hell itself. Xanatos nods and approaches Leonidas, holding out his staff. Kneel, son of Sparta. Shogun of the Heavens Book 1 is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle or for order at your local Barnes & Noble's bookstore. The Amazon link to purchase the book is in the description of the video. Behold, as we all dive into the world of myths and fiction. Book 2, The Throne Crusher, is still set to be released on December 9th, 2024. This installment changes the tempo of the story, allowing us to go deeper into popular role characters who will now step to the forefront of this epic tale. On this channel, we will be providing you a series of samples read from the Shogun of the Heavens book series and complemented by visuals from the story as envisioned by the author. Please like and share the video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below. Then, while you're at it, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can compare our competing galleries of art.